Yeah, it's such a new group with like 8 new faces. Nick just coming to town today. You're still trying to figure the group out, to be honest with you. And you're playing combinations and stuff. But obviously, we had a focus on the defensive end of the floor. There were some things that we really wanted to zero in on. I thought the guys did a great job of kind of retaining the information and things that we tried to do. I just thought the group really played together. Probably one of the big differences for me was it looked like, I'd have to go back and look at the film, but 50-50 balls, we won those. Guys were on the floor. We made the extra pass. I think we had 20-some assists, so 25 assists on 39 made field goals. Low turnovers, tied on the boards, got more three-point attempts up than the opponent. So there was a lot of really good things.
Obviously, Bryce will kind of grab the headlines with his 28. Was it good to see, I suppose, a star player produce in the second game?
Yeah, we're still trying to figure it out, to be honest with you. He's so dynamic as a scorer, and it's just such a new group. It's interesting where he's trying to operate in certain spaces, and you even saw one time that there was kind of a cross match in transition, and Isaac Humphries is trying to do the right thing by coming up and setting a pick and roll, and Bryce is just like, no, get away. Like he wants that space at certain times, and that's just the connection part of us getting used to play with each other and playing with Bryce Cotton and what he does, and then trying to get more easy baskets. He ended up with a bunch of threes off of those 50-50 balls when it seemed like 3 and 4 people were on the floor. Somehow it ended up in his hands, and he's rising up with a three, which, is a big momentum boost for us.
Kind of alluded to it there, but I suppose, obviously, he high scored and everything, but it didn't feel like he totally dominated the ball or totally dominated possession. Did you feel like the other guys were able to step up and obviously contribute on the scoreboard?
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of really, really impressive efforts, that really stood out. And we were trying to get DJ involved. Obviously, we ran the first play for him to start the game and things. And I thought they did a really good job of kind of being on him and trying to take away a few things. But, that's where Zylan and then Isis rolls to the rim. And, we've got a team that can do a lot of different things on the offensive end. But then, I think probably for me as a coach, it was our attention to detail on the defensive side of the ball where, we did limit three-point attempts. We were trying not to foul them and put them on the line. We were trying to battle on the boards. I thought Matt Kenyon, Isaac White, Michael Harris, when they came in, they really changed the flow of the game. I give a ton of credit to our bench, and then different combinations, whether you're in their starting lineup or then you start to sub out where you've got 2 or 3 starters and some bench guys or bridge guys. We didn't have a drop in our execution or our intensity on defense.
Obviously, coming in, you said that Jack McVeigh was Taipans' best player.
Yeah.
I think you guys did a pretty good job of shutting him down. He's a bit quiet on the court there. Was that kind of game plan coming into the match?
Well, we have a ton of respect. I think that there is a ton of really good players in this league, and Jack's one of them. I mean, what he's done and what he's accomplished, I think he is going to be the focal point of everybody's scouting report, and that's what great players do. And, he warrants that kind of attention. And, I made a joke about it in the media the other day because of the Taipans, and it's an old Coach Popovich term from San Antonio when I worked for the Spurs about, the best player is the head of the snake, and I kind of made a joke about it. But, he's a terrific player, and we just tried to influence him into some areas. He's going to score points. He's going to make shots. You just want to make him work for everything that he gets. I thought that our attention to detail on that, as I keep saying, we're such a new group. We're trying to figure things out. I thought Zylan did a fantastic job on him. I thought that, Matt Kenyon came in. There was no drop-off in our intensity. Even Flynn and some of the other guys had cracks in there, took their turns. And, it was just a team effort all the way around.
And we'll just jump to Chris on Zoom.
Yeah, Mike, you talked about how it all started at the defensive end, but the way for such a new group, and you haven't played too much together, the way you're able to execute so well offensively, I mean, you're able to create so many good looks. You had back cuts, you had open layups, you had open shots everywhere, and everyone was passing and being unselfish. That must be a good sign for such a new group 2 games in.
I'm glad it looked good on TV. It didn't feel like that to me. I'll be honest with you. I want it to be even smoother. I just always think no matter what, there's probably another level. I think after 2 games and us just having a chance to finally play a few NBL games with Bryce and Ice in certain combinations, we want to make the game easy. I know that we have a lot of different offensive weapons, and we all have to kind of figure it out. If we totaled up everybody's shot attempts from last year and what they averaged, it'd be like 90-plus attempts. There's not that many shots in an NBL game. So guys are going to have to sacrifice. They're going to have to do different things on offense for us, and that means, flashing, playing second side, passing the ball ahead. But when it does move like it did tonight with 25 assists on 39 made field goals, it looks pretty good. But I always just think there's another level, to be honest with you. But we do have some talented offensive players.
You touched on it as well. Your hustle was terrific all night. And for a guy that hasn't even been to Adelaide yet, for Nick to come in to join this team only yesterday and to come out and fight for those rebounds like he did, I think he had 7 rebounds in about 3 or 4 minutes.
It was 8. Not that I looked, but it's 8. Really an interesting trip for Nick to just fly straight here and us try to get him up to speed. And I was even like, hey, I'm not sure if I want to play. I might look for an opportunity. Let's see how you feel. And his response the entire time was, no, I want to get in there. I'd like to get in there. So for him to play 15 minutes and end up with 8 and 8, he's a very, very talented player. We haven't had a practice with him. He will give us a different type of dynamic on our offensive end than Z or Ice as bigs. He's got a lot of different things, and I'm just excited about the potential there of what he can do to impact the group and help us function. When guys are all over Bryce or DJ and stuff like that, to have another guy that can, really pass it and shoot it and make plays off the bounce.
You're talking about potential. You saw that in Flynn Cameron, which is why you were so excited to bring him in. And he started this season great. He looks like he's really ready to take that next step, doesn't he?
Well, I've talked about it all summer long, but when I was just watching guys, and this was before Bryce opted in, but, he was somebody that caught my eye last year as a young, talented player. He was just kind of, he had a bunch of really good players in front of him at Melbourne United. So, just as a 24, now he's 25-year-old player, he's really disciplined. He loves to compete. He plays hard. He's the perfect kind of complement to a lot of different things in our backcourt and with different playing groups because he has such an interesting skill set. But, his high IQ, high character, and he plays, he competes. So, when you have a guy like that, it's probably easy to play with him. And we're trying to figure out different ways to use him, like whether he's on the point guard or he's on the wing, or at times he was on Jack McVay tonight. There's a lot of different things. And when you can guard multiple positions, you're really, really valuable to a roster and a team.
And just lastly from me, you get to go home now and you get to spend a couple of weeks at home, and especially to blend Nick into this lineup, that's going to be really important.
Yeah, I think this has kind of been an interesting 2-game swing for us. We can take a quick little breath here, and then try to focus on the things that dial in on a few things that just move the needle. I kind of talk about, moving it 1% each day. Can we just get a little bit better? We're not going to move it 5% or 10%, but can we just move the group forward and keep going in the same direction? We want to be ready for a Game 5 elimination by Game 25. That's our goal. I don't want them to be perfect right now. I don't expect them to be perfect right now, but I want them to compete like that on every possession. And, good plays are going to happen, bad plays are going to be happening, and we just kind of keep moving forward. And hopefully at the end of the day, we get the best result.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, thanks, guys. Yeah.
So just quickly, obviously, you've mentioned ball movement and your desire for a lot of ball movement, heavily in the press conference, and you mentioned obviously spending time with San Antonio. Is that an emphasis that's coming out of that time you've worked with Greg Popovich in that system?
Well, I think it's probably a little bit of all the great coaches I was fortunate to work for, and the man, how like Rudy Tomjanovich did it with the Houston Rockets back in the 90s, early 2000. We've had Elijah one, but the ball still moved. It just moved from the post out, and then you know, you go to San Antonio in those days, and we had a lot of different influences, but you had a lot of great passers in Tim, Tony, and Manu. So the ball naturally moved. And then, you know, I would say what Quinn Snyder did in our years in Utah, that was always the focus of our whole was supposed to be greater than our individuals. And we had some great players, whether it be Gordon Hayward or Donovan Mitchell or Rudy Gobert. But, you know, we tried to lead the league in passes and hockey assists and moving it from side to side. We're trying to figure all that stuff out, to be honest with you, because Bryce is so talented. You know, his ball's going to be in his hands a little bit, and it's going to stay with him a little bit. And we got to figure out when it's time to come and, you know, play flash or play pick and roll, and when you got to give him space and how to get that thing to the second side. But, you know, it's got to be a focus. You got to move the defense. You got to get the thing side to side. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep.